What's up, everybody? My name's Bryce, aka DubsNotSubs, and in today's video, we are going to be covering Tropic of the Sea by Satoshi Kon, and more specifically, we're going to be talking about industrialism versus traditionalism, and kind of the pros and cons of both of those. But without further ado, let's get right into this video. So, if you do like content like this, more of a discussion on what the manga is about rather than a review on how good it is, I would like you to please tell me that you do enjoy it, and if you do, what kind of manga or anime. It's 2020, I can do both, I'm open. Well, which one you would like to see, or what show, what manga you'd like me to cover in depth, and maybe if there's a topic inside there specifically you'd like to see, what would that be? But anyway, let's get on to the discussion of this, and that is Tropic of the Sea, industrialism versus traditionalism. So, if you don't know what this is about, first off, I'm going to be spoiling the entire story of Tropic of the Sea, so if you do want to read that before that, warning, I'm telling everything that's going on in this thing. No hold barred, because I want to discuss about it, and that would involve me talking about the entire story. So yes, get a couple seconds of me before I spoil it. Okay, then now we're going to be getting into what this is about. If you don't exactly know but don't care about spoilers and don't plan on reading it anyway, is about Yoshi Yashiro's family in a town of Adade in Tokyo, which is kind of a more in the boonies, countryside town that's not really up to date with the modernization of Tokyo and all these other cities. And we get to see the Yosuke's father, who is the current head priest of the shrine in the town, and we get to see him kind of start to industrialize the city. So they're building a resort, there are hospitals, there are a ton of different things inside the city that are changing. And there also goes with the head priest that is the legend of the mermaid, and that is every 60 years the mermaid leaves an egg for them to nurture and kind of prepare for hatching or whatever. And then at the end of the 60 years, they bring it back to the sea so that the mermaid can have it. And in return, the mermaids bless them with prosperity in the sea and calm waters. I think it's prosperity for like fishing and then calm waters, because before they started this tradition, the seas were super violent. They weren't good. It wasn't good for catching, and that's kind of how the story is. That legend where people don't really know whether it's true or not, or what this egg really is that they show in the shrine. So the story opens up with Yosuke and his dog just kind of chilling on the beach, you know, having a good time. And I do want to cover the art real quick, because I do really enjoy Satoshi Kon's art in this, especially the first panel when they initially showed the sea. Hopefully I put a picture up there, and hopefully I don't get copyrighted for that. But anyway, yeah, he puts a picture up there, the picture of that and the sea. It almost felt like I could feel or hear the oceans rolling in there, because maybe it's just because I went to Florida recently for a getaway, vacation kind of style stuff. But yeah, I really loved that photo specifically in that manga. It just felt so peaceful, so calm. And also the foreshadowing of the island in the background, which leads to more on later in the story. I really appreciate that. But yeah, this starts off with him coming back to the shrine. He shows Yosuke kind of nurturing the egg, and he's watering it and everything, and then he starts to hear a strange noise, and up from the shrine stairs he sees his father bringing a bunch of news reporters in the crew, and starts to basically takes the key from Yosuke and just shows the egg to everyone for the first time ever, in which they were not supposed to do. It was supposed to be like a family secret or not shown to anybody. It never really fully explains that why they're not allowed to show it to anybody, but what happens is he shows it, and then he's about to let the news reporter touch it, and then all of a sudden Yosuke's grandpa shows up and is like, "Don't do that, what are you doing?" Right? He's like, "You're treading on a bunch of family secrets and are ruining everything about the entire family's legacy by trying to show these people this egg." So he basically is like, "The fuck?" And they start having this argument back at the house about how they need to just transform the city and how it's not good for the town's development. Well, the grandpa wants to stay more traditional and says that they don't need all this development. And so basically we go back and forth between the town kind of splitting between development more towards a city side, and then trying to stay back in their old customs. And we kind of get to see that break between mainly, well, yeah, we have the grandpa and him, but also I like the dynamic of the Yosuke's father and then his best friend's father, who they used to be best friends when they were a child, but this whole thing where he became a shrine maiden and tried to develop the city. The fisherman, who is, I forgot his name, but he is what used to be his father, like I said, and they kind of just go back and forth, fight each other and all this, and they're not friends anymore. They ruin it, and well, not ruin it, they just kind of broke apart because they had different opinions, and it kind of shows how strongly opinionated people can be and how it can ruin so many different things in people's lives. Just like one opinion people can feel so strongly about that they won't budge on it, and the other person won't budge on it, so it just breaks them apart, which is a really sad reality. in life, but it's one of those things where you truly strongly believe in it and you can't back down from it. It's kind of like you kind of just have to let them go. If you're not, you just have to agree to disagree. But anyway, this kind of goes on from there, and we get to see a former city folk, former I don't know, citizen. That's just a former citizen of the town, Nami, who had left to go to Tokyo for a year, or I think she went to college there for a year and then came back, and we get to kind of see her perspective, which almost becomes more of an outsider tourist perspective for someone who's in the city, who sees the country sound as kind of like this tourist attraction, more of this like, oh, that's so cool because you don't go there all the time. Well, the people inside the town are more wanting to develop to a modernized town for their own reasons, to make money, all this other things. So we get to see her perspective, Yosuke's perspective, who is a citizen in the town who doesn't really, he's kind of indifferent about the tradition and modernization. We get to see Yosuke's father, who is on the side of development, and we get to see his grandpa and his Yosuke's father's best friend, who is on the side of not developing. So you get to see 3 different perspectives throughout this whole manga about why they make their case, why they shouldn't do it, and all this stuff. But also kind of goes off the deep end with the little bit of the mermaid thing. So, like, it ends up being real, right? So it kind of throws that industrial and traditional thing in kind of away a little bit, because when you throw in some mystical element and that's the reason why you should stay, it kind of doesn't really help your argument at all. But the point still stands, and I'll try to still carry across the point of what I think Satoshi Kon is trying to say from this. But yeah, sorry about that. My UPS man decided to come right now, which I am very thankful for, because this is something I keep forgetting to tell you guys that I won. But I actually won one of the Weathering With You contests down there. I believe was the one that Studio Ghibli did by themselves. So I got movie tickets to go, this the Red Wimp CD soundtrack for the Weathering With You, and then I got a couple of the pins. I don't know who any of these characters are. I forgot their names, but they seem important enough to be getting pins out of. So, you know, we got boy right here, who's definitely not from Your Name, and then we have girl right here, who is definitely not Your Name. They do kind of look similar though a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. And then I got the novel from Yen Press on here, so I'm excited to see that movie, so I will be coming out with a review for that. But we'll also stand by that Your Name has my favorite anime soundtrack of all time. The Radwimps were so good in that movie, and also the fact that Makoto Shinkai changed some of the scenes in the movie to match up with the lyrics or the song itself makes it so much better. And I know that stuff is matched up like that. But anyway, we are going to be getting back into Tropic of the Sea now, and I'm trying to remember where it came up, and the more I talk, I'm trying to stall so I can remember where I was at. Something about, okay, the 3 different perspectives and where the people are what each side is. So from the development side, they are saying it's for the city to stay better, or not stay better, get better, because they don't have a lot of things like a modernized hospital, emergency center, resort to make money. And they are also building a resort on the beach side and on an island, which I hinted at earlier. So the side that doesn't want development goes, so I don't really know if they're exactly against I don't think anyone's against the hospital side, right? It's all mainly about this resort. Nobody in the manga ever said once about the hospital being bad. It was all about the resort itself being bad and just disrespecting the mermaids, because they're supposed to be worshiping the sea and praising the mermaids in return for the calm seas, right? So what happens is they don't want the resort because they think it's disrespecting the mermaids and breaks the promise of them supposed to be protecting the sea. And specifically in a part in the manga when they start to try to build up on the island itself, I don't remember what the term is, but they start demolishing part of the island, blowing up trees, like hacking everything up, just destroying part of the island, that's where the old shrine used to be for where they're supposed to put the egg and return it to for that 60-year treaty that they have. That's where it's supposed to go. There's like an underground layer in the island. It's a little weird, like how they get there. There's a cave, and then you go under the cave, and like this here's little tunnel, and then there's like an old shrine and everything. So they put it there. But anyway, they start destroying that, and that's after his grandpa tried to bring it back there because he was trying to force this mermaid thing to go through because he believes it so strongly, because he knows that it's real, because he claims to have seen a mermaid and everything. And Yosuke kind of doesn't really believe it all. He did when he was younger, but as he grew up, he kind of grew out of it. And then we get to see Nami's perspective, who left and then came back and does kind of believe in mermaids and all this. And she also fucking blanked right there. She also has overall, just not all, but nostalgia, wanting to keep the city traditional, because she is probably the most least opinionated. Well, so is Yosuke, because she does bring a very good point that all of Yosuke's thoughts are just secondhand from what his father thinks, and it's very true and relevant when you see how Yosuke talks and what his examples are and everything. It's just all what his father pretty much regurgitates. And then Yosuke brings up a good point that Nami only wants it to be traditional because she liked how it used to be. She likes that nostalgia feeling, and it's just a tourist perspective of what this city should be, and not really what the town should do to develop and stay afloat as a town. So we get to kind of see things start to develop, and we get to see the sleazy businessman who's building a resort at first, and he's just trying to do slimy things. He ends up discovering the egg, and what happens is when they're in the shrine, like I said earlier, some kind of pulse happens where it ends up healing his grandpa's cancer. Yes, I know, what the fuck, and it never gets explained, so don't ask me how it happened. And anyway, he sees that, and he also sees how Yosuke, who was holding the eggs, hand gets cut from the explosion, but it instantly heals. And then he decides to try to get a research team so he can research the egg and see what it does, and try to basically make it a profitable business, and try to use this egg to get money for himself, because that's all he really cares about. And so we end up getting to the festival part of the manga, where the side that doesn't want the industrialization, and then the side that does are holding I believe the resort on the island, on the actual town, is already built, but the one on the island isn't built. When you see I don't really exactly know. It's a little, this book does not exactly do a perfect job. It's Satoshi Kon's first work, what he says in the back. And also a lot of things in the back, which I'll probably cover later, is a really interesting, what he says about how he made this manga and anything. But without me going off that rabbit trail yet, let's get back to what we were talking about. Basically, they start a fight inside the resort, in the festival, where they both have floats, and they just start a whole out, fucking brawl inside the city, just throwing punches and everything. And then one of the floats start topple over and almost smashes the egg, and this allows the businessman to basically convince Yosuke's dad to let him take care of the egg, which his plans is to steal the egg, bring it to a research facility, and then just turn a profit with that egg. So we end up progressing to that. The 60 years the time breaks up because the festival is when the 60 years happens. They end up going the next day with this national swim thing, where all the kids from the city basically swim to the island and then back, and then this is when shit goes haywire. The mermaid shows up randomly, flips the boat that Yosuke's on and Nami's on, and then he starts to get drowned, and then he wakes up randomly, not really knowing why he got woken back up or what happens. I did forget this part, and I didn't mean to, but there's one of the big parts is about how Yosuke's dad never really believed anything he couldn't see or illogical, but his wife, who had passed, is someone who really did believe in the mermaids and kind of pushed Yosuke to believe in the mermaids and all this. So, and he also said if his mom didn't die, his grandpa said if his mom didn't die, that he wouldn't think his father, or his son for him, Yosuke's father, would be so adamant on this industrialization or development of the city, because what happens when he wakes up is he looks at Yosuke, and then he asks him basically what happened when his mom dies, and he basically tells him that they both somehow randomly showed up on the shore. It doesn't really get explained how they got in the ocean, what they were drowning for, how they even got far enough in the ocean, but something like a wave took them or something, and they both end up washed back up on the shore, and his mom ends up dying while he basically lives because he didn't swallow as much water as his mom did. But if they had an emergency facility in the city at that time, they would have been able to, or at least he thinks they would have been able to save his wife. And that really does bring up a good point of why the hospital is a very big part in this. And it's like they didn't have a hospital before, but then again, nobody ever really talks about the hospital being bad again. I don't want to say that, but it's like I said, it's all about that resort, and that's what I'm going to get to once I've done explaining the whole story, because I feel like you guys gotta, if I don't explain the whole story, you won't get a full grasp on what he was trying to say, or if I say something, you might not get exactly what I was trying to say. Anyway, we get to that, and he basically kind of just goes haywire. They start to steal it, try to bring it out of the city, and then a huge storm comes in, and basically what happens through a lot of stuff, the chase scene happens, Yosuke gets the eggs back, and he starts to bring it back to the ocean. We get to see the waves, all like the ocean's all gone pretty much, and we get to realize that a tsunami is coming in because of what happened in the broken treaty. So Yosuke and the owner, or the business owner of that resort, bolt into the ocean while the business owner is chasing Yosuke so he can return the egg back to the mermaid. He basically then gives it to the mermaid, and he shows him that this is a gift from the sea, not something to turn a profit, and he's like, oh shit, I've been a money-hungry bastard for so long. So then wave goes over, they wash it back in the store, everything's fine, they end up living, and then what happens at the end is Nami, we get to see Nami was the one who actually pulled Yosuke from the water when that boat got flipped, and we get the mouth-to-mouth joke, and then there she goes on the train, and that's just kind of a really funny moment. But yeah, then we get to see what actually ends up happening with the city itself. The tsunami ends up conveniently destroying only the resort parts of the island, of the city, and nothing else really gets broken. So what happens is this resort ends up getting rebuilt, but not to the scale that it originally was, and it's downscaled more. And what I think the point of Satoshi Kon's Tropic of the Sea, or why it makes us there, is that there's nothing wrong with industrialization or staying up with the times, but there is a problem with going too far. So by the point of that is Yosuke's father basically forgets all his tradition, forgets all the family and all the generations of stuff that he did before that in the shrine, and basically shells out this egg for money, for just so he can get money for the city and everything. And he never really does it for his own self-interest. Like Yosuke, I'm not make that clear that he never really does it for himself. He's doing it for the city. He really is trying to make the city better, because that's what he truly believes will make the city better. But the businessman does do it for himself. He's just trying to make money and all this. But until the end, when the businessman kind of wakes up when he sees that mermaid, the one thing I don't like though about the story is that it really goes for a seeing is believing kind of attitude, because they're like, fuck it, who cares about this mermaid, right? But then Yosuke sees it and he's like, oh, now I believe. It's like one of those things where if you don't see it, then it can't be true kind of a situation, but there's more to this world than just so you can see, like, on a microscopic level and all this other stuff. I'm not going to get into that. Again, I stay away from religious politics as best as I can, so without going into that. Anyway, we get to see him I think the whole point of this series is to say, you can definitely get development and stay up with the times without forgetting your heritage and the people in it, because the people who forget their heritage and where they came from, like they say in the saying, the people who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. And there's a lot of things that you can learn from the past that if you decide to forget about your traditions and stuff and only go with modern times, I'm not going to say we're going to end up, I'm not going to like a conspiracy theory and be like, we're going to end up in fucking Terminator or Blade Runner or some like crazy shit like that. But at the same time, we got flying Uber helicopters now coming out in like 2 years. So I definitely don't think there's anything wrong with industrializing a city or becoming more developed and staying up with the time, especially from that hospital's perspective when his wife could have survived, and that kind of what sparks him. I missed the snap. I really wanted to have that snap effect. Comes in and then basically motivates him to want to industrialize the city, because that's what he believes is truly best for the city. But there's also nothing wrong with the people are saying with the forgetting your traditions and all this stuff and forsaking everything that your ancestors had and all this other stuff without that I'm trying to keep out that supernatural side, because obviously mermaids don't exist. I'm sorry to tell you guys. But yeah, overall, I did really enjoy this story. I really like the topic and discussion that brings up, and I would like to know you guys' opinions on this. What do you think about modernization and development and forgetting your past? Because if you look at Tokyo now, or not just Tokyo, but Japan in general, there is a lot of places that are very developed, very modern, but also for the aspect is very rooted in their tradition. They have stuff everywhere. You can see it in their culture all the time. And I think one of the things that kind of America really doesn't have is like a heritage. Our heritage is basically just diversity, right? Because we're a melting pot. So it's kind of hard to say what our heritage really is. Is it the Native Americans that were here before? Is it the Pilgrims and stuff that came on here? What is really our heritage, and what's our best way to remember that kind of culture and stuff like that? That's just food for thought. I don't really have an answer for that. I don't have all the answers. I'm only 20 and this is my freshman year of college. Give me some time. I don't have my PhD in philosophy yet. But anyway, guys, I do hope you enjoy this video. If you do like this video and like discussion topics like this, please tell me in the comments below. Tell me what more you want to see. I'm definitely interested to cover more topics like this and try to expand my thoughts and just try to challenge myself to have more in an in-depth look into manga instead of more of a surface level look. I did definitely enjoy Tropic of the Sea. I know some people didn't really enjoy it, but overall, I do really love this series. I was really happy with it, and yeah, Vertical did a great job. I love this. I love Satoshi Kon. Rest in peace. He was a great mangaka. Millennium Actress was great. These are the only 2 things I've read by him so far, so I have no other anything to say. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I do always appreciate you guys watching, and as always, I will see you in another video.